Hi, everybody. Okay, we are 1,926 days since Richard was forcibly removed from his barracks room and his life was taken from him. And this was after months of retaliation for being a whistleblower. And it escalated. They, of course, ran a counterintelligence. This was very, very high level. Everything was very high level. And they ran the counterintelligence with the billionaire's lawyer, and then as soon as they got I guess the code red, they forcibly removed him from the barracks room and took his life, and his body was then stolen off of Fort Bliss. His life was taken on Fort Bliss, and it was stolen off of Fort Bliss, and then dismembered and trafficked. And we believe he was trafficked. All the evidence indicates across the border and to Plenitud Crematorium. So, and, just the whole progression of everything, all the institutional support that we're getting right now also corroborates our findings, our investigation that Richard's remains were trafficked across the border and to Plenitud Crematorium. So let's answer those questions, because a lot of people say, how can you say that? How do you know? And let's answer those questions. So I did do a little. Normally I do everything by memory, because 5 years of doing this in and out, and we're not. I'm sitting here by myself. I'm doing this by myself. So, I just do it from the heart, from what I know, and of course, everything that our family has investigated, the evidence, what it indicates, and this is where it goes. So there's so many questions that we can answer. And so if you have any, please feel free to leave a comment asking questions. That would be very helpful. And so I did write down a few about Plenitud Crematorium, some questions, and I'm going to answer them tonight. So here we go. Evidence suggests that Richard's remains were taken and processed at Plenitud Crematorium, a facility now facing serious accusations of misconduct. And I think that is the key. So that's the claim. I guess these aren't questions, these are just claims. And we're going to support the claims. Number one, has Plenitud Crematorium, when they opened the gates, did they have over 400 rotting bodies with rats eating through these remains? Answer to that question, yes, that's documented. 400, over 400, y'all. Were they dating back to July of 2020, when Richard's life was taken? Yes. Yes. So this facility, absolutely, it is all possible that Richard's remains have been found there, were taken there and processed there, and that Plenitud Crematorium was committing sacrilege and violating regulations, laws, licensing, everything. So the oversight, this is another, how can that happen if there's no oversight? Well, the oversight was at the crematorium done by a government agency that was headed up by the governor's mother, Maria Eugenia Galvan. And it is interesting that that name Galvan is very connected from the very beginning to Richard's case. And yes, are the claims that, well, the victims' families, that they are protesting right now because they want her to be held accountable. They feel like she committed egregious crimes, and they want her to be held to the highest scrutiny and accountability. So, these claims are not so far outrageous or impossible. These are all now documented and all possible. The crematorium has been accused of disposing bodies without identification, documentation, or family consent. Absolutely. There is bodies there that have indications of torture. So is this a cartel victim dumping ground? Yes, that all indications, all evidence, they call it the narco crematorium. Okay. So that's really important. They absolutely would do that. A claim indicates, claims indicate that some remains, possibly including Halliday's, were improperly cremated or misused, bypassing official processes. Yes, and hold on, I got to go for a second. Sorry, I had to go. Okay, so could Richard's remains be taken off of base? Were there tunnels? Were there officials, agencies, individuals that give passes, that allow without any scrutiny to be taken over the border? If it's through a tunnel, if it's across CBP, what were those individuals in place to accomplish this task of taking Richard's body and trafficking across the border? Could they do it through funeral homes? Absolutely. You have several funeral homes that are transnational. You have the prime suspect is a CID agent, not any longer. He had his badge removed in 2021, but at the time he was a CID agent. And when we were there, they were absolutely protecting the CID agent. Do they have, and his brother, Solomon Anusa, is mortuary operations for the U.S. Army. Could they fabricate, could they um, tamper with documents. This is like totally yes across the board on every question that we have. And so when you have a question, we can say, yes, they had the people in place. We had um, the director of emergency services on Fort Bliss absolutely participate in all of this because there was a 14-year-old girl living in the barracks for 4 months. For 4 months, girls were being brought in during the lockdown, uh, and they were given passes to come in and have parties in the barracks with the soldiers. Okay, these were given passes. So yes, where were the relationship between the uh, director of emergency services and another prime suspect, Leilani Hart, was uh, was that very close? Was that a very close relationship? It was a very close relationship, and and that relationship was also uh, motive not to say anything because her husband was working in IDS Pueblo for disability benefits for veterans. So if you wanted disability benefits from veterans, you didn't want to upset the apple cart, right? You had a motive. There was a motive there to keep the illegal activities, secret. And so, across the board, more and more and more, we have so much evidence piled because, I don't even talk about CPS CYS and Child Protective Services there on Fort Bliss and its relationship with Park University and um, all the evidence that we have. The question is, could did they have individuals in place that um, was absolutely necessary to take Richard's body after his life was lost and take it steal it off of Fort Bliss and traffic it to Mexico? Do they have those in place? Yes. Were the El Paso funeral homes up to no good? Do they also have a is there evidence that they were up to no good? 100%. We know that they were connected to Plenitud Crematorium. We know that they were connected to the Walmart mass shooting. We know um, that they were absolutely up to no good, that their conflicts of interest were huge, and that it was very political. We know it was very political. We know that their conflicts of interest were just, they're going to shock you when all of it comes out, and that they had transnational access, and um, that they were dealing with death certificates that were tampered with, that were not right, that they were dealing with autopsies that weren't right, that they were dealing with um, other documents, vital documents that weren't right, that they absolutely would illegally transfer these bodies. We know that for a fact. We have that documented. So this is all, um, when we say they trafficked Richard across the border into Plenitud Crematorium, we're not um, just saying that off the cuff. It is with substantial mounds and mounds of evidence that this that we've made these claims. So would they falsify death certificates? Would they have a person in place with that? Yes. Delia Briones. is proven to be up to no good, leaking, tampering. You got the 2028 stamp, lots of document fraud that we have posted, but also what we have piled up in evidence. So, do they have someone in the medical examiners that is up to no good? Yes, Mario Raskin Ortiz. I've been crying about him for years, that he is illegal and unqualified and absolutely part of the cartel network that is connected to the Mormon faction, that are, and we have evidence that death certificates are just tampered with. Okay, they're tampered with. So, and even I think I'm just trying to think about all the documents that I've gone through. Our family's gone through. It's yes, absolutely tampered. So were they doing that? Yes. And, that's linked to the Walmart mass shooting too. Okay. Forgery of death records um, is not something that is saying, no, that couldn't happen. Absolutely. We know that it did happen. We know that it did happen. And now over in Mexico, we know that it happened because you have all of these hundreds of complaints and that this was happening. So witnesses and family members say that the crematorium officials and possibly, oh, well, we know, and the authorities conspired to conceal evidence of wrongdoing. 100% they did. And look what they're doing right now. They're stonewalling, and the people aren't taking it. They're absolutely coming out in droves and saying, no, we want justice, and we want to all these bodies identified. 400 bodies. I just put up a pegboard of what 400 look like. It's a lot. It's a lot. And you have Del Carmen being arrested for 3 or 4 um, uh, manipulated bodies, right? And you still have this very protected person living in El Paso, the owner of a Plenitud Crematorium, fine dining with the county judge Ricardo Samaniego and meeting with the prosecutor over from the North Zone. So absolutely, they have let down the people because they're not they're not they're not doing their job. They're absolutely not doing their job. Matter of fact, they're weaponizing their position, or they're abusing their position. I think that's well, both is right. Abusing their position for personal gain, and weaponizing it to cover up and to hurt people that are trying to expose what they're doing. So claims persist that the management intentionally destroyed and falsified records tied to transfer, processing, disposal of remains. So that is really absolutely possible. And we know that the transfer of remains were not properly done. We have evidence of that. And so, yeah, that's absolutely possible. And we know that Richard's documents over and over and over again were tampered with to give other more ethical law enforcement the wrong idea, the wrong information, so that they, you know, they couldn't respond and act on truth. They had wrong information. So does it point to the U.S. Army? Does it point to Fort Bliss? Yes, of course. Of course it does. So that means that the leadership on Fort Bliss is complicit with this. Absolutely. And we've been uh, presenting that evidence over and over and over again. And so that is not an impossibility when you're talking about Sean Bernabe, the Lieutenant General Commander of Fort Bliss, lying to us about who Nadal Baim is, who said that Richard's body was trafficked to Mexico. He said he was in Mexico, and he wasn't alive. He wasn't alive. So that's trafficked to Mexico, right? Um, and of course, he's very connected to the command. And why didn't um, the commander of Fort Bliss have Richard's back? Why did he protect Nadal Baim, who was he is an imposter for the FBI. He is a Palestinian arms dealer. Why did he get protection and not U.S. Army, not our son, a U.S. Army soldier? Right? That's a good question, right? And I think he needs to be held accountable for his lies and that. So clearly, there was a protection of some kind of monetary gain in there from the border activities. And we know that uh, from General John Kelly, right? Because of his contracts that he had, and then his betrayal by going and working for the very cartel government agency, the Chihuahua governor's office, as a security advisor. So this absolutely points to our military being complicit at the highest level. So, it's all possible. It's not only possible, it's evidence indicates it. And we're not just shooting from the hip. And I hope that you go through the whole. Thank you, Anicia, for coming on so late with your prayers and your love. So I hope you go through the Facebook site. We are on X. I need to update that a little bit. But on Facebook, it is updated, and you can look through the posts and see all of the evidence that we have been presenting about the Walmart mass shooting case, because this has a lot to do with the Walmart mass shooting. Bill Hicks, and his, he was the lawyer for Purchase Funeral Homes, is the lawyer for Purchase Funeral Homes, the last we heard, and was the prosecutor at the same time for the Walmart mass shooting case. I think that should tell everybody something huge, huge. I mean, that's jaw dropping right there. So, especially when you know that he illegally took over that position in so many ways, So, being the district attorney, that's the position I'm talking about. So thank you everybody so much. I'm going to continue answering these questions. If you have any questions, leave them. And as soon, every time we have breaking news, I mean, it's just absolutely amazing what's happening over on the border with these victims' families and their victims themselves, and what they're demanding and the names that they're putting out. They're absolutely corroborating everything that we have for years been discovering in our investigation. And now it has led to the Plenitud Crematorium. And so, you just have these officials like the prosecutor over there, Carlos Manuel Salas, blocking um, the the identification of those bodies, and Mauro Campos, and and all of the agencies that these families have graciously um, uh, made transparent to the public. And that's very important in our case, and we're very grateful for that. So we are absolutely with them. We stand with them, and um, we're gonna get justice. So thank you so much. God bless you, and I will be back.